Here we are now, moving towards autumn, although there isn't that much clear autumn, summer, winter in this part of the world, but it's very, very pleasant weather. Though this year so far we had much, much less rain in South India, particularly this part. And we are worried about what's going to happen next year, our drinking waters. Because the monastery where I am is in a little bit high sort of place, and there are so many ground drilling waters people are using, and they quickly run dry out if we don't have the good rain. So I'm a little bit worried about what's going to happen next year, January, February, March, because this year we have a much, much less rain, in the summer and, the late summer. Usually there are two, what you call the raining season. The early one's longer, later one is shorter. This year, both are very, very, very little rain. And we had a very busy 3-4 weeks, hoping His Holiness is going to come, preparing everything. And then now we have a little bit resting time, but we don't know. He may come after the Budgaya. So, but there is a possibility he may come after the Budgaya teaching. That means early January. And now on 25th, we are starting here, the winter debating session, which usually lasts a month, but this year we are doing 3 weeks. That means many, many monks will come from different monasteries to join us. And so those 3 weeks will be extremely busy and noisy, and particularly in the evening after at 6 o'clock, we start evening debating class, and that will continue until sometimes over midnight. And so I'm looking forward to that, which is have a lots of my own as a student, my own memories, and now as a head of the monastery, have to run that smoothly, and so all those things. And that is me. And the hours I've been thinking, to do at least 3-4 classes this summer. But this summer, lots of work, and also had a little bit chest infection that lasts quite a long time to clear the infection, and lots of coughing, particularly at night, and then having good sleep, and during the day is quite tough. So all this together, didn't manage to discuss until today. I'm very glad. I'm very glad, we are doing this, and yes, and also I thought, currently the world is going through very, very tough time in many parts of the world, natural disasters, war, and many other, challenges. So I thought it is good to have a few classes, so this weekend and one weekend in December. So that's what we're going to do. Hello, Robin. Do you have a good, exciting 80th birthday?
Yes, wonderful. Thank you so much.
Okay, great. Okay. So we have only now 2-3 minutes, and I will slowly start the class, and the people who are going to join, and they will join with us. And as you know, we always start this class with setting the motivation, and that is done with the taking refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, and holding the bodhicitta, the altruistic awakened mind. And so we will do, brief recitation of refuge and bodhicitta, those 4 lines. And as you know that it is nice to recite or read the refuge lines, but it is much better to hold the mind taking refuge in Buddha as our teacher and mentor, and taking refuge in Dharma as a means and methods to be applied in our daily lives, to be actualized or experienced within ourselves, and also take refuge in Sangha as a spiritual friends, supporters, and learn from them, from the Sanghas, and have that mind taking refuge in 3 jewels with a clear understanding of the qualities of the Buddha, Dharma, and the Sangha. That understanding will, leads us to take refuge in 3 jewels, and also have the understanding of the nature of our current existence, though this is human existence that we have, which has many great potentials to do amazing things to ourselves as well as to others, yet it is not perfect, not free from the shortcomings, and in particularly some of those unhealthy, distorted mental states. So that understanding will urge us to take refuge in 3 jewels. As you know, quite often these 2 understandings or realizations, understanding of the qualities of the 3 jewels and the understanding of the nature of our current unenlightened existence, are the causes, that, make us to take refuge in 3 jewels. So that is a brief reminding. I know many of you have been practicing Buddha Dharma for a long, long, long time, so I will not go any detail on this, but it is a very important part of our gathering, the setting the right motivation, and the motivation is set with the refuge and the bodhicitta. So now we will say the refuge and bodhicitta lines. Sangye chedan soje chanjo bado dani dage jenso yebe sona dola tenje sangye sangye chedan soje chonam chanjo bado dani daso Dāgī jīnsō jīvē tsōna dōlā pēnjē sāngjē dō sāngjē chēdā tsōjī tsōna tāñjō bādō tāñi jātō chē dāgī jīnsō jīvē tsōna dōlā pēnjē sāngjē dō. And I will say a few times Avalokiteshvara Chenresi mantra, 6-syllable mantra, Amane Padme Hum. And while I'm saying the mantra, we all hold very strong and clear, loving kindness and great compassion, and that loving kindness and great compassion that we are holding in our heart will express towards all sending beings without any exclusion, and in particularly those living beings, those human beings who are currently going through very, very difficult times, very, very difficult times. Express our sincere, genuine empathy. Though it might be very small and very long distance, but from our side, fully, completely express our love and compassion, and we share the difficulties and the challenges. And so I will say the 6-syllable mantra. Oh, yeah. So I decided this weekend and not whole weekend. Today, hour and a half, and tomorrow, hour and a half, and in next month, another, Saturday and Sunday, is, classes. I decided to read from uh, uh, the texts normally called mind training or thought transformation, mind training or thought transformation. In Tibetan, it is called lojong, training the mind. I decided to read this because, since last year and particularly recently, there are so many, as I said earlier, many of you know, so lots of difficulties, going on in the world. And many of these we, can't do that much apart from prayer or share the sadness, pain, sufferings. Apart from that, there isn't actually that we can do. There isn't that much we can do. And, not only that, from my own experiences, sometimes seeing, hearing, reading those sad, news, it is, the mind goes to blaming to one side, blaming to other side, and blaming to that and this and that, and then, listening or reading some of those articles and listening some of those commentaries and get confused, so on and so forth, and very, unnecessary, unsettling minds, try to occur, try to, develop. and which is very, very, there's no benefits to having that kind of mind. And so what I did is not every day, every now and then, hold this book, this in Tibetan, that Jimba, student Jimba put together, and read some of those Lojong mind training. Some are quite long, some are quite short, and read one or two paragraphs, one or two verses, and little bit reflect on that, and reflection is done with the current situation outside in the world, and also sometimes within myself. It is not easy being a head of the monastery. It is not that smooth. It is not that there are lots of challenges. But I found going back to some of those things that there isn't that much I can do, although I can try or pray or say prayers and so forth. Apart from that, there are these situations, circumstances that there isn't that much I can do. Then reading Lojong text is very, very helpful to calm down, to settle down my mind, and at least not blaming to this and that, and that is I found very helpful. So I thought, these 2 weekends we'll read one of those texts, and I went through, and there's one nice chapter that is in English translation of this book, and some of you have, in Jimba's this text called the Book of Kadam, which has all the translation of that book. And in chapter 6, which is not very long and which is not too short, we can quite relatively easily finish in these 2 weekends. So I've selected that text. And the title of that text is also quite nice. And this is also, that statement or the title of the text is very much in the monastery or the Lojong practitioners in a circle, very much everyday, statement, whether in my case, whether I'm able to practice or not, but that statement comes very often, I can state. It says in Tibetan, and in English it says, how all blames lies on a single point. And that is very, title itself, though there might be many other, immediate conditions, causes, circumstances. But if we, trace back and back and back and back, and then, from the Buddhist teachings point of view, and then it really very much comes down to, our individuals' mental state of the mind, and the collective state of the mind, groups state of the mind, communities state of the way of thinking, state of the mind. It comes down to there. And that is what here I found is quite, I thought it's nice to read that text. And text itself is very much, like a question and answer between the teacher, master, and the student, one-to-one, really very much like when I was here in the monastery as a student, until I reached age 18 or 19, I was with my teacher, day and night. Because it is also the condition we don't have spare rooms, which these days, I tell quite often to the current students, you people are very, very lucky. And because our times, the facilities are compared to these days very poor. I mean, these days are compared to our time, it's luxury. And compared to even these days, even in our surrounding Indian people, the monks, conditions are luxury, really. Sometimes I feel it is too luxury. They lose what you call the track to the study and so forth. And of course, during the class, my teacher will lead class to the group. But when the class finish, then of course I'm still there with my teacher. And so quite often very often had the opportunity to talk and, to ask questions. So when the other time when I was reading this, and also at some other, in this text, there are these conversations between Atisha, this great 11th century Indian teacher, who came to, in his late, I think 50, early 60s age, he came to Tibet with a request of some of Tibetan, kings and teachers. He came to Tibet and he spent, later part of all his life stay in Tibet and die in Tibet. Great Indian master, Atisha, Dipankara Atisha. And, he was born in current time in West Bengal, or in that area. And so him and his main disciple, he had many disciples, but his main disciple most of the time with him and serving him, not only receiving teaching, but like cooking, cleaning, patching the water from the spring, wherever. And this, is called Dromtönpa. And he was a Tibetan, and he was a lay person, not ordained monk. Upasika, that means have the lay person's vow and not ordained. And he, among many great Kadamba teachers or disciples of Atisha, he was the main disciple and servant of Atisha. So this teaching, as you people who have the text, you can read, it is asking the Dromtönpa asking question to Atisha, and Atisha is giving, answers. And some quite often, saying, why you're asking this question? You know this, in the text. And sometimes he just simply say, yeah, I do agree what you are saying. And it is very, nice to read that text. And so anyway, this is, and then as I said, it really pinpoint where the individual challenges, difficulties, the shortcomings, mental difficulties, or collective difficulty, where they are really coming from. It's really pinpoint that, and that's really something I thought is quite nice to read this. And the text is, this question and answer took place when the Atisha and his disciple Dromtönpa, they were living in this place called Nyetangwe. It is central Tibet. Nyetangwe. Atisha came, to Tibet from the Western Tibet, where we enter into Tibet very, very close to where I was born. In fact, the the home or the house where my mother was born. My father came from different home, and where my mother was born, and that place where Atisha came from India, across the border, and the Tibetan kings sent people to meet him, and that's the first place to meet. And it is something. So anyway, and that is what here it says. On another occasion, when Father Atisha and his son were staying at their residence at the Nyatangwe, Drom is the disciple. Drom prostrated to Atisha and recollecting the method of holding one's mind and so forth. So that is how question and answer started between the teacher and student. And Dom asked the question. This question and answer series started initially reflecting on or recollecting the teachings that his master had given in the past, and then holding that in his mind, and also thinking, reflecting on those teachings. Then Dom asked this long. The first statement is quite long. Dom asked this long, like questions, and that is really something setting the background is very, very nice, beautiful. Dom asked the question not just out of accidentally, or not just without reflecting on the past teachings or the situations, but reflect on the situations, recollecting the past on the past teachings, then ask this question. Prior to that, making 3 prostrations as a very much Buddhist culture, and which is also it is not just culture, or it is not just we do that. It has a meaning. Making prostration, though it has come from Indian culture, Indian tradition, but it has a mental training, mind training. It has a very, very powerful message, and many of you know what is the purpose of making prostration, or very beautifully expressing or praising those teachers or those people, or mentally very much reflecting on those great qualities of those teachers. It is simply, first of all, to really to deal with our arrogant mind, our this very negative, prided mind. I'm using this term, negative. This pride mind or arrogant mind, which very, very difficult to learn good qualities from others. This arrogant mind really blocks our mind, ourselves, to learn from the qualities, good qualities from others. That others can be just, a person who is on the street, not necessarily have a big title, not necessarily have lots of followers, just somebody who has good qualities. We should learn from those. But our arrogant mind, stop that. And one of the main purposes to making prostration, praising to the those good qualities, is to reduce our arrogance. So that is what here it happened. So I will not read whole this long paragraph. This paragraph start with this. I'll read a little bit there, and then it says this. Now Dromtönpa is asking this question: ignorance, craving, and grasping are the causes of sentient beings. So that is one sentence. Then it says, volition and becoming serves as their conditions. That's another two, So ignorance, craving, grasping in one group, and they are called causes of sentient beings. Volition, or we can say, action, volition, and the becoming serve as their conditions. So like the secondary causes, conditions in the sense secondary causes. Like, when we are growing sets of vegetables, we have the seeds, the main cause, then we have the fertilizers, moistures, which are the secondary conditions. And then it continues. While their effects are consciousness, name, and form, 6 senses, sense fields, contact, feeling, birth, aging, and death. So you can hear the bells. Sorry, that is the Sera Mey school is just behind my window, and now the children are coming. I think they are coming to have a half an hour or 15 minutes playing time. So it is going to be very noisy. So I will put my AirPlug. That might be a little bit better.
Yes, although Geshe, we can hear you fine.
We can't hear much outside.
We can't hear much outside.
It's okay.
That's fine. We can't hear hardly anything going on outside. So
okay, yeah. So there are 3 groups. First 2 groups are the first group is called causes. Second group is called conditions. And the third group is called effects or results. And many of you have learned this before. That is talking about the 12 links of dependent origination. 12 links of dependent origination in the Four Noble Truths. If we have little bit detailed explanation of the first and the second Noble Truths, then these 12 links of dependent origination will come. And some of you are quite familiar with that. And that is the really, the setting, that sort of background, saying, there are these 3 groups. Then, Atisha, I will not go one by one, because then if I do that, we will walk down here and difficult to finish. And because the main topic is a little bit different from what Dromtönpa is asking here. So then he says, so it is these 3 causes, conditions, and effects that alone turn the wheel of impurity throughout the universe. So in other words, our individual existence, not just current existence, continuation of, the turning in the sense continuing birth, aging, sickness, death, birth, aging, sickness, and death. This wheel is turned by these 3 groups of the factors. In that 3 groups, there are 12 factors, 12 links of dependent origination. So it is still at Dromtönpa setting his questions. So it says this, universe. covering covering all our own defects with our palms, and this is important. I want to spend a little bit time on this. It says this: covering all our own defects with our palms, we unearth all the fertile hetrides or weaknesses, shortcomings, of others with our fingers. And that is very nice statement. It is saying, we are very, very capable, able to cover our own those shortcomings. That's what we do. We sometimes, out of fear, and for many reasons, we are unable to look at the shortcoming, our own shortcomings, particularly those mental shortcomings. But we are quite capable, to point the finger towards other people's those weaknesses, those mistakes, and so forth. And that is here something helpful to reflect on, in current world situation, when we look at different groups, different parties, very, very capable, sometimes very eloquently point the fingers to the other's shortcomings, hardly express their own weaknesses in a group or in a wider, in like those situations. And it is when it gets closer and closer to individual, to ourselves, we also do the same thing. And that's what here Dromtönpa is saying to his teacher. That's how we do it. Students do not implement the teacher's word, and sons do not listen to what their fathers tell them or mothers tell them. So that is what here, talking about. For example, when we say about teachers, many of us read many teachings from many great teachers, and we have, what you call received many teachings from, great teachers directly. But while we are listening, while we are reading, we agree with their statements, with their what they say. But when it comes to implement, when it comes to actual action, we have difficulties, struggles, and sometimes even we don't attempt to do that. Maybe occasionally we try, but when we try, once we try, if that fails, difficult to take it again, and that's that chapter is closed, and we look at another teachings, what teacher is going to give, and that is what many of us do, and this is what Dromtönpa is saying, and even in the family level or in the friendship level, when the other person gives us good advice, sometimes difficult to implement that advice. And that is what here, all great Atisha, a negative error has dawned. Although sentient beings share the experience of the impure circle of the 12 links of dependent origination, the beings of this degenerate error are partaking individually in what is common resource. But I will not read. There are a few lines. I will not read all. So here, what is in this, the big paragraph, what the Dromtönpa is setting the background of the teachings that he had heard from his teacher before. That is the 12 links of dependent origination. Those 12 links or 12 factors put together into three groups: causes, conditions, and third one is the results. Third one is the results. And these 12 factors keep us in this cyclic existence, this conditioning existence. And that those two statements saying we are very, very capable to point fingers towards others' weaknesses, but we are also very, very clever to cover our own weaknesses, our own those faults. And these are those two statements are very much, expressing the what you call our within while we are in this samsara, how we act, how we live our life, and very much in this. So that is and he says, I request you to give a brief explanation of 12 links of dependent origination. So that is the request, a teaching request by the Dom. But Atisha, said this very nice. When I was reading this, his answer, it seems either they are, in a situation, their clothing are wet or whatever, or there's another meaning, I don't know. There's a nice, he says this, Atisha replied, I shall explain this later when we have left our robe because of the muddy water. So either Atisha is explaining giving some kind of metaphor meaning, or it is the real situation. Either they are in that area, they are traveling together, and their clothes are wet, muddy, and Atisha thought, oh, this is too much to give long teachings on 12 links of dependent origination. And this I will do after our clothes are dry and muds are cleared. I will do this later. And one of those two, I don't know exactly. And I asked one of my teachers, he said, I really don't know. So I don't know. So that is, but Atisha, then he continues, say, Dom says, in that case, what is the root of bondage? What is the root of this, bondage in the sense is a continuation of this, conditioning existence, continuation of this conditioning existence, or this existence which we don't have that much to say, when we want to stop, when we want to continue, or where we want to go, and where we want to be born, and so on and so forth. In that sense, bondage, or sometimes called cyclic existence, in Tibetan, korwa. So then, Dromtönpa changed his, his way of asking question. Okay, then give me a short answer. What is the root of the bondage? If you have a difficulty to go with this very detailed explanation on the 12 links of dependent origination. And it is very nice, when we create that kind of image, that kind of scenario, it is very nice to see there is a very close, teacher and student connection, relationship is going on, so then Dom says, in that case, what is the root of the bondage? Asked Dom, Atisha. It is the grasping at self. So that is our main topic. So if the title of the text, when it says how all blames lies on a single point, so that lies on this self-grasping. And that is what, the summary. People who don't want to come tomorrow or in the next month class, you got it. That is what here, what here it says, it is the grasping at self. It is the grasping at self. So, the very, very short, yet it has a deep philosophical, practical meaning. There is a very, very practical meaning. Yet also, there's a deep philosophical explanation. The analysis can be done on this short answer. Says it is the self-grasping, the root of the bondage. That the root of the main cause that keep us in this continuation of conditioning existence is this self-grasping. Mm-hmm. It is the grasping itself. Then Dom continue asking question. What is this grasping at self? That is the Dom's question. Dom inquired Dom. So Atisha answer is this. This is something that wants all positive qualities for oneself alone and wants others alone to take all the misfortune. So here, Atisha answer at this stage is not any sort of very deep philosophical answer. What he gave here answer to the question, what is self-grasping? Atisha gave a very practical, very experiential answer to understand what is self-grasping. Not a very philosophical interpretation or explanation of what is self-grasping, but very much, the practical, experiential answer. And it says, Atisha says, this is something that wants all positive qualities for oneself alone. So think about, do I have that kind of attitude, that kind of mental setting, that kind of habit, and all the positive things, all the positive things that, here it says qualities for oneself alone. Our immediate answer, particularly people who have practiced Dharma, have heard many times this, we may say, no, I don't think that way. I dedicate positive to others. At the end of the day, my dedication, I include all sentient beings, not just myself. And, that I think that is true. I think many of us do that. And that is very fortunate. We are very fortunate to have that kind of mental setting. We learn that kind of mental setting through the good positive cultures, through the fortunate upbringing, and then, here meeting great teachers, great dharmas. So we are, at least trying not to, have that kind of attitude, just alone. Everything, all the positive thing is alone, myself. We don't do that, But that is very much, current our situation. But if we take the surface of this, that's what we have learned through the, what you call the meeting, good culture, good upbringing, positive, circumstances, and all those things. But if we take that surface, the situations, then we know that there's a question mark, big question mark, whether we have that kind of attitude or not. One of my earlier memory when I moved to London from France in 1994, that was soon after, or that was middle of the, the Balkan War, Yugoslavia, that breaking down, that. And there were many, many, many sad stories. And within that, those sad stories, very frequently come up, story is, we lived in this village for many generations, Muslim and Christians. And then now we are killing each other. These people have been my neighbor, my great-great-great-parents' neighbors. We have been here many generations. I'm Christian, I'm Muslim, and like that. But now we are killing each other. And that is the clear sign. They are able to live for many generations, not killing each other, maybe have a little bit, a quarreling argument, but not that sort of situation, because conditions created that. When that condition is changed, the nature, that unfortunate nature, triggered all that sad stories. And that is my, early memory when I was in UK, watching television and learning this. I thought that is how it is, I'm thinking about, I'm a monk, I'm a practitioner, and at that time, saying I'm a resident teacher. I really don't know how I'm going to react, if I were in that kind of situation. In Tibetan, I think some of you have heard this expression. In Tibetan, we have an expression saying, because not entire Tibet, but Tibet is very much mountain, regions. And they are very little, very flat, unless if you go further north. And so, the main, means to take one place to another place in long distance is riding horse or riding yacht. And so while they are traveling in a flat land, and they sing, all the sings and songs, and when they reach very torrent, very steep mountain and very risky, then they chant mantras. So that is the nice situation. That when we have everything's okay, there's no dharma, there's no practice. But when it comes to tough time, then dharma just come back to think about dharma. So that is here another situation. So here, what I'm saying is this answer given by Atisha, question to what is that self-grasping, when it says it is this is something that wants all positive qualities for oneself alone, and wants others alone to take on all misfortunes. So there are two things, isn't it? All the good things are, I want. All the misfortune are I don't want others to have it. And that is what here. And this is practical and very experiential answer of what is self-grasping. So why we have that kind of attitude, that kind of behavior? Why? And then, if we search the answer, then again go back to this, self-grasping. Self, I, it goes to there. So that is here. We will come further. I will not explain just here what is self-grasping, because I want to, Atisha says what is self-grasping instead of me saying what is self-grasping. So, and that's what, from my understanding, this answer is very much practical and experiential answer of what is self-grasping. So we should, reflect on that, not dismiss immediately saying, "Oh, I don't do this. I'm much better than this person at this." I don't have that kind of self-grasping. Not in that kind of, immediately, or what you call the rejecting. Look at closer, deeper. And as I mentioned, this example of that what happened in the Yugoslavia, when we look at this in these situations. And as many of you may, hearing this again, may get bored, but I find it's very good to share, particularly non-British people, share this, what you call the example, say English or British people are very, very polite, and when they queue for everything, and they queue for bus, and very politely let the elderly go, and you will follow, and so on and so forth. And that sounds really nice, very, very nice to do that. But I thought this quite often when I was in London. Will that happen in India? Population is very high. I mean, nowadays it is the things are really changed. When I was a young man here, from here to one of the big cities called Mysore, which is 2.5 hours distant by car or the bus. Those days there were only one bus every 1.5, every 2 hours. Sometimes even that is difficult. So if there's a bus, there's no rule and regulation, there's no compassion, there's no elderly or children, everyone rush to get it to get in bus. So I feel, when I was waiting bus in London, if that happened, how English people will react? Will they politely saying you go first, or they will rush? But then I saw one time there was a train, what you call the strike, and there were many buses, but there were so many people waiting to get in central London. Then the politeness is not there that much, So that is sign of another how our good qualities, what we think. I'm a practitioner. I'm very compassionate. I'm very considering others' well-being. I'm not criticizing. I'm just sharing my own experiences. Some of these are very, I find very helpful to myself to reflect on my own those witnesses to understand. So that is here. Then Drom asks again, saying, then please explain. This is such a manner, so you can say this is self-grasping. Drom asks, so what you said, that all the positive, all the good things I want, all the misfortune, unfortunate, take to others. How can you say that is self-grasping? How can you say that? That is self-grasping. So here Dom asks, then please explain. This is such a manner, so you can say this is self-grasping. That kind of manner, that kind of habit, that kind of attitude is, how can you say that is self-grasping? Please explain. Dom push a little bit to his teacher. I want to know more what is self-grasping than what you have just said. So that is how Atisha replied. Okay. Atisha replied, where would one find something of which it could be said that? So this is Atisha's reply. Where would one find something of which it could be said that? So this one in Tibetan, I'm just in English sometimes difficult for me to understand that kind of statement. So in Tibetan, tradition, ona tende dangzin di suyin bashi di in ba sungshi she shube tradition dangzin jodo ban di in dongju kang. So this is saying there isn't some kind of substance or some kind of finger pointable, thing saying this is self-grasping. There isn't. So that is what here this strange English I found. Where would one find something of which it could be said that? Then in a quotation, this is the rarefied self-grasping. So that is now very much philosophical explanation. What is self-grasping? It says rarefied. This is the rarefied self-grasping. Rarefied in Tibetan. So I will go Dromtönpa. Rarefied, I don't know exactly what, in other words, exaggerate, exaggerate, or in Tibetan word, this word is very, very nice, very nice in the sense, immediately you will get the image. Dromtönpa, that means, when in the ancient time, when the people hunt animals, they have bow and arrow. At this straight one, which is called arrow, isn't bow is this one, and that's straight. A stick goes straight. At the not the point, this end, they put some feathers or something to get right. What you call to go straight. Not straight to the different directions. So quite often, I think in ancient time in Tibet, or also I think in India, that is what they put at the end of the stick. They put bird's feather in the fourth at the end. And that is, it is not from the stick, it is added on the stick to keep this arrow go straight. So the person added this, feather. And that is what here is talking about. Rarefied in the sense we have a mental state which something added on the self or the I, on our identity, who we are and what we are, added on something which is not there at the first place, but we added on. Mentally, when I say added on, not physically, but mentally. And this adding on something, adding on something on ourself or the I, that creates trouble. And when we believe what is added on, that is self and should be protected, that is starting the self-grasping. Grasping in the sense we believe I or self is in that manner, the manner of what we added on, which is not there at the first place. And that is here important for us to bear in mind. When you talk about self-grasping, when you talk about this, the Buddhist, what you call the unique. When I say unique, I'm not saying Buddhist is better than the others, but a very unique, explanation about I who creates karma compared to other non-Buddhist ancient Indian spiritual philosophical traditions. There are one or two small ancient Indian, non-Buddhist traditions also do not believe self or Atma, Otherwise, rest all believe Atma or the self. And here, this is what unique the Buddha, the historical Buddha, explain. And this is what, again, going back to the Dom's first question. Out of those three groups, do you remember? Causes, conditions, and results. And within the causes, there are three. The first one, ignorance. And that is what here, the Buddhist explanation, how why we circle in this conditioning existence. And the root is, because of this self-grasping, rarefied self-grasping. Rarefied in the sense, believing self or the I or I exist in a manner, where I or the self does not exist in that fashion, in that manner. So, okay. Here, that is, we will come back because nature of the text, they are, in terms of the meditation, there is a section which, very much as a meditation, very much, many of you know Heart Sutra, that sutra, Panchaparamita Sutra. There is a section very much in that kind of, and it is, for me, it is very much a meditation part. And today, I will go a little bit further reading. We'll come back again with this, what is added on. We'll come back that, what is added on our I or the self, which is not there right at the beginning. Based on Tibetan term, Dromtönpa, that, the adding on the feathers on the error, which is not there at the first place. So now we want to know what is added on. What kind of extra qualifications are added on? And this will come later. But today I will go a little bit further reading. So then, Atisha replied, where would one find something of which it could be said that this is the rarefied self-grasping? So this, anyway. Then it continued. In that case, please explain to me how it is that this self-grasping wants everything and transfers everything positive and transfers all the blames upon others. That is what, going back to, the more practical, more experiential answer was given by Atisha, what is self-grasping in the earlier question when, Dom asked, what is self-grasping? Atisha gave that answer. Self-grasping is, we have this kind of manner, attitude, behavior, that all the positive things we want ourselves and ourselves alone. All the negative or the misfortunes that goes to others. That is, and then next answer, when Dom push further, then please explain what is this self-grasping. Then Atisha answer, this is the rarefied self-grasping. And there's a little bit philosophical explanation, interpretation is given by Atisha. Then Dom push again. So then explain how this rarefied self-grasping, make us have that kind of manner, that kind of attitude, that kind of behavior. Behavior or habit or manner of all the positive things, belongs to me or, me or me alone, and all the misfortune goes to others. How this? And so that is, then Atisha replied, Upaskika. This is the Dromtönpa's, his lay person, yet he has taken lay precepts. And that's why it's called Upasika. When the lay people take lay precepts, either 2, 3, or all 5, then they are called Upasika and Upasika, male and female. Upasika. Why even ask me? And that is very important. As I mentioned earlier, sometimes, the Atisha, instead of explaining or giving direct or answer, he just said this. This one is very, Upasika, why even ask me? So it's saying, reflect on your own behavior, attitude. That will tell you why you're asking me. Or saying, Atisha is saying, why are you asking me this? Because you already know this. So then it follows, it says this. Upasika, why even ask me? This is pervasive in sentient beings. And this word pervasive is very important word. And in Tibetan, Semjen Namla, Tangmar Dao. This here in English is pervasive. I don't know all the connotation of pervasive. One is just spread, or in Tibetan there are two words. Tangmar Dawa. Tangma has a meaning of what you call obvious, very outstanding, very obvious. For example, at night when we very often I go do my sort of exercise at the monastery in the top building, and when I gaze the long distance, because the building is very high, long distance, then I can see far away the twinkling lights and so forth. So even those distance, when it's very bright, easy to see. So what it's saying here is, it is very easy to see. And it's also very pervasive in the sense, all living beings, all sentient beings, all human beings have that manner. It is very obvious. And that's what here pervasive, Upasika, why even ask me? This is pervasive in sentient beings. You know this. So what need is there to ask? So that is very nice, answer. What need to ask? It is very obvious. Of course, it is very obvious when we pay attention. But if we don't pay attention, even very, very obvious things, we won't, we are unable to catch, unable to see, unable to aware of it. And that is happening in our daily life. What we have done this morning, up to now, most of the things what I have done just this morning, from morning now, here is approaching, the 3:45. Just, there's no attention. There's no mindfulness. There's no observation. Just carry on as a habitually, like a machine. And that is really blocking us, that kind of manner, that kind of, the habit, blocking us to see these very obvious, the things. In this case, due to the self-grasping, how we behave, how we act. Because we don't pay that much attention. Or sometimes we say, that is how it is. Everybody acts in that way. Everybody, say that way, believe that way, and that's how it is. We don't caution. And that is here we really, and this, the teaching of mindfulness. So paying attention to our daily life, our daily activities. More we pay attention, these will come, obvious, clearer, manifest clearer. Less pay attention, we won't see that, we won't recognize. And very, very practicing mindfulness, paying attention, raising this ability to pay attention is very, very important. Then we will see, some of you have heard this before from me. It is like a, what you call the, when we put many different size of glass marble in a tray. Some are big, some are small, some are very small, some are very tiny. Unless if we, put it like a scale or stick to take the bigger one first, we will not see or understand these are the big, these are the middle, these are the small. As soon as we start to do like this, one stick on the tray, push like this, then it is very obvious the taller ones or bigger one come first. Similar to that, when we pay attention, then which mental states frequently occur, positive, negative, distorted, undistorted. But many of us don't pay that much attention. We don't have that much understanding, that much understanding. This will come, tomorrow, which there is a nice statement in relation to that. So Atisha replied, Upaseka, why even ask me? This is pervasive in sentient beings. You know this. So what need is there to ask? Even so then, in reality, you don't need to ask. But even if you need a little bit my explanation, and Atisha goes, even so, I've also seen attachment and aversion labeled as self-grasping. So this is not moving or having slightly different explanation. What Atisha is saying? What is self-grasping, and how self-grasping make us behave in a particular pattern? It is very obvious. It is very pervasive. Don't need to ask. But even if you need me to say a little bit, then the Atisha said, even so, I have also been attachment and aversion labeled as self-grasping. So what is saying here, Atisha, there are these explanations, aversion and attachment are also labeled as a self-grasping. So here, in certain extent, from the self-grasping, then the next step or the further extension is either aversion or attachment. And therefore, sometimes these two are also labeled as a self-grasping, because there is the line is very thin. This is self-grasping, this is attachment, this is aversion. It is not that clear cut. This is self-grasping, not attachment, not aversion. You can't say that much. You can't make that kind of distinction because the line is very thin. And that's what here, this Atisha's, the explanation. So I will leave it here today. It's approaching now at 4, and I have another things to do. So I'll leave it here, and we will say our usual prayer, 21 Tara prayers, and the dedication.
Hi, Geshe. Sorry. Some people have asked if they'll be able to ask questions at some stage. Do you plan on
tomorrow?
allowing for that?
Yeah.
Maybe tomorrow? Okay, cool. Thank you.
Tomorrow we'll do, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Do you have a prayer? Yeah. Om Je Tsering Pama Droma La Cha Tse Changze Droma Nyuma Ba Jene Geje Lo Dan Cha Jige Sum Gun Chu Ji She Kesa Che Wa Le Ne Jo Changze Tongge Da Wa Gun Kan Wa Jene Tsik Be She Le Kama Tong Da Tso Ba Rabdo Che We We Ra Changze Semu Chu Ne Je Peme Changne Nambara Je Jimba Zunju Gado She Soba Samden Ju Changze Teishin Shebe To Taye Nambara Jawa Ju Malu Paru Jimba To Jawe Seji Shindu Changze Toda Rahung Yi Deda Choda Namgaka Jide Dombo Shadi Leba Meba Guba Changze Jajin Mela Tang Long La Na Zo Wang Ju Che Zhongbo Ro Lan Te Sa Na Ni Jun Zo Ji Du Ne De Changze Zhe Jie Cha Dang Pe Paro Chobo Rab Do Jo Ye Gong Yin Jiang Sha Di Ni Me Bar Choba Shin Do Bar Changze Du Ri Ji Ba Chen Dui Ji Ba O Na Bar Jo Chu Ji Shen Ne Chong Ni De Dao Tam Je Ma Lu Se Changze Gong Zhou Song Zhe Cha Seme Toga Nambara Je Ma Lu Cho Je Ho Lo Je Rang Je Re Je Chong Nung Zhe Changze Rab Do Ga Wa Je Wo Jin Re Je Chen Wa Be She Ba Rab She Du Da Ra De Da Ji Den Wang Du Zhe Changze Sa Shi Gong We Zo Tam Je Gu Ba Nu Ba Ni Cho Ni Ye Wa Yi Ge Hong Ba Tam Je Nang Ba Do Changze Da We Dong Bo Jian Ba Tam Je Xin Do Ba Ra Re Be Che Ne We Ba Me Da Ba Re Xin Do We Ro Zhe Changze Ge We Tam Ma Me Ba Re Chen We Wu Ne Me Ye Jiang Yung Gu Gu Ne Ho Dai Dai Ye Gong Ne Nang Ba Ra Jo Changze Sa Xie Ngo La Cha Ge Te Ji Nu Jin Xia Bie Dong Chong Ni Jian Zhe Yi Ge Hong Ren Ba Dun Bo Nam Ne Ge Ma Changze De Ma Ge Ma Xie Ma Yang En De Xin Ju Ni So Wa Om Da Yang Da Den Dik Ba Chen Bo Zhong Ba Ni Changze Gu Ne Go Ro Wa Ga Zha Ye Lu Ne Nang Ba Ra Ge Yi Ge Ju Be Nga Ne Ge Be Ri Ba Hong Le Zhou Ma Ni Changze Du Ri Jian Ne Da Be Hong Ge Nam Be Sa Wen Ni Re Ra Men Da Ra Dang Be Che Ji Den Sum Na Ye Wa Ni Changze La Ye Zu Ye Na Be Re Da Da Jin Chang Na Na Da Ra Ni Ju Pe Jie Yi De Na Ma Lu Ba Ne Se Ma Changze La Ye Zong Nam Ge Pa Da Ming Ji Den Gu Ne Gu Jia Ga Wa Ji Ge Zhe Da Men Lo Nian Ba Se Ma Changze Ni Ma Da Wa Ge Ji Ni Bo La Ro Se Ma Ha Ra Ni Ju Du Da Ra Xin Du Zha Gu Ren Ne Se Ma Changze Ti Ni Sum Nam Ge Xie Wei Tu Da Yang Da Den De Da Rong La Ni Jun Zo Jiang Ba Du Ri Ra Zhou Ni Za Wei Nga Di De Ba Di Da Changze Wa Ni Ni Ju Za Ewa Deye Deo Senama Yeshe Tsoto Shen Senama Yeshe Lechung Tamba Kunye Toba Chanjo Senjo Ren Maje Banama Jeba Nyamba Meba Kone Kondo Kare Rave Kore Shenka Penda Dewa Maju Jere Sewa Tenzin Dafo Shabe Sede Bantu Tenyo. Oh yeah, thank you, thank you, and
Thank you very much.
thank you. I will see you tomorrow. Bye bye.